Episode here, Pretty Good Parent today.
Yeah. I wanted to talk today about this concept of idea of friend or parent. Like they need to be, you could be one or the other, right? And being a friend to your kid is wrong and bad. And being a parent is significantly different. And just to be clear.
So like the people that say, "Hey, I'm Johnny's buddy. I'm like his best friend." And some people are like, "Oh, that's good," or "That's bad," or
a lot of
parent
opinions.
only, and I'm not going to be a friend.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I want to highlight that words are always fail to fully grasp a concept or an idea, right? They have limited understanding, limited use. So some of these words are the problem, not the concept or the idea or the practice. And the saying like, well, your kid doesn't need a friend, they need a parent. Well, what's that mean? Well, their concept is embedded into those statements, and sometimes it's unfairly used. So to say, there's no reason that you can't be a friend with your kid, but that doesn't mean you forfeit or should forfeit boundaries, respect, follow through, accountability. But really, what I was thinking about this the other day, really the problem is we're not that great of friends. And so when we use the word friend concept, now it's bad. It's like if you're a really good friend, you would have an element of accountability with your friend. You would say, hey, it's your choice, but this doesn't look like it's good for your life, your health or your relationship or your job. That's being a good friend. Most people don't say stuff like that. So then friend now just sounds like you're just a cheerleader and you never like really speak truth into someone's life. So to say be a parent versus a friend in that context, you'd say, well, that makes sense because as a parent, you'd want to speak into the kid's life. But I would say if we redefined what a really healthy, good friend would be, it's not that different than a parent. Now, you're not giving consequences to your friend.
Right.
You're obviously less judgy and less in control. And every kid at their age is a little bit different parent involvement. But
I've never made one of my friends pick up the dog's poop.
oh,
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
maybe that's your next step.
Yes, exactly.
2024 goal in friendship. More leverage with their help around the house.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't feel responsible for developing your friend's work ethic and taking participation in the house. But the concept of being a parent versus a friend, everyone has their idea with that. And instantly it makes it look, one is just like high five and no accountability. And the other one maybe is more the drill sergeant. That doesn't mean someone has to be that way. And I'm not advocating for that at all. But the concept of blending them together makes a ton of sense. Like, well, why wouldn't you want to have the best relationship possible? Research strongly supports success for a child in adulthood in their ability to attach, right?
Yeah.
So, and in some cases, it's attaching just to an adult, not even a parent. And if your kid can't attach to you or someone else, they are significantly hampered in launching into like adulthood and having independence and perseverance through adversity in life. So making sure there's attachment is a really, really high priority above and beyond like be able to work or just, the mechanics of an adult life. One's ability to attach is perhaps the highest level of goal to shoot for. And attachments easily develop during a friendship or a relationship.
Yeah, I was thinking like attachment has to be sort of steered through friendship, or right? It's like you don't want to be attached to a drill sergeant, right?
No.
Or someone being like
You can respect them,
Right.
right? But the attachment piece is this warm, fuzzy kind of like flow of like empathy, love, and care. And depending on people's philosophy, right, which goes back to kind of their background, their belief system. I've worked with a lot of parents over the years that felt like their job, and they've sometimes said this verbatim, my job is to make sure my kid knows how to like be an adult. And it's just a skill download. Like, all right, pay the bills, get a job,
Right.
take care of your family in these, external kinds of ways. But anyone knows that if there's not like a heart pumping in there and there's not laughter and forgiveness and tears and accountability, it's not a great feeling family. You're
Right.
like, well, dad pays the bills. He cuts the grass and he, does this, and mom makes sure this is done and takes care of this and models what it looks like to balance like a work life and this. But if it's not attachable, they fall way short of what's available. And then the kid most likely feels like there's a little bit of hole inside of them that they've got to go fill in the world. You know?
Right.
But if it's, we're going to laugh and I'm going to be, again, the words are imperfect. But I would want to say to my kids, like, I want to be your friend, but not like your friends.
Right.
Like a different category. But it is, we both can share. Now, am I going to share
Like a
as
parent
much?
friend. Can we be a parent? Can we make a new term? Parent
Yeah,
friend?
I'm your parent friend,
Yeah.
right? I want to be friendly.
Right.
I want to share what's going on in my life at an appropriate level of disclosure, which is a discerning thing. We could talk a little bit about that, but you know, don't share too much of something that's actually unnecessarily troubling for your kid. But don't lie and say you have it all figured out, because that's a confusing message for them when they are struggling in their life. Like, well, my dad always had it figured out. Like, no. Remember, he talked about how he doesn't really know. He's kind of guessing, or he's going off of principle. The road seems to end up there and he's going to make a leap, you know, or something. So being the parent friend requires accountability, structure, follow through, but not necessarily with a drill sergeant like attitude, right? And really, and if you've picked up on a theme of a lot of the parenting advice, is what's your energy like? You can have a ton of structure and have a smile
Right.
and be nice. You can put your arm around and be like, I need you to clean up your room. You can stand at the doorway and, you know, bow your back and broaden your shoulders and clench your fists and say, I need you to clean your room, or else. Both are instilling structure, but one creates unnecessary tension and division, and the other one bonds and creates respect and empathy and love and support. And the follow through is what's most important in that situation. If like I can get my son to clean his room, I've checked my parenting box in that sense without damaging any relationship, and be like, well, hey, how about I help you for like 1 minute, and then
Right.
and then you take over. If he, let's say he's just like stuck and he's not doing it. I'm not saying you always have to like participate in your kid's stuff, but the kind, friendly approach while addressing the follow through or the consequences, like they made a mistake, they messed up, they did something at school, they did something at their friend's house, broke something and lied about it. What would you do to a friend? How would you approach your friend if you had to talk to them about it? You know, it's a good model. It's a benchmark to go from. It's like, well, treat them respectfully. You're modeling how you want them to talk someday to
Yeah.
their kids or to the world. You're not letting them off the hook if it's something that needs to be addressed. It's just treating them with decency and respect. But on the internal part of that for the parent, usually if they're emotionally charged and their wheels are spinning and they're like, they've jumped 5 years down the road and they're imagining their kid in jail now, and now they're reacting to that, that usually takes over and influences the delivery of their message, which is going to hamper how well they absorb the lesson.
Right.
Right.
So, quick question for the listener. Let's say they are like, okay, Josh, I'm too much a parent, or I'm too much a friend, right? And how can they set up this sort of environment or system to be sort of this good parent friend, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go ahead and take a stab at this, and you tell me if I'm full of shit or not. Okay,
Yeah.
Josh? What do you
Perfect.
think about the idea, just because as you were talking, this sort of popped in my head, the idea that sort of the parent drill sergeant stuff should be more sort of pre-thought out and sort of laid out as sort of foundations and you know, kind of like the foundation for how we live. So for example, let's take some like household chores. Hey, we like to do the dishes and have a clean kitchen every day. We like to make sure your room's clean, you know, at the end of the week. Homework's done. Like these are sort of the foundation for how we live. And that's sort of my drill sergeant parent type side of person. And then kind of all of the daily interactions are all as a friend or being friendly and just helping your friend be accountable and be like, hey, by the way, you know, do we have XYZ done? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, because those have already been laid out in foundation, and they're known through everybody in the house, right, in the family. And it's
Yeah.
not like you just coming out as a drill sergeant and being like, go clean your room right now. And they're like, what are you talking about? You never asked me to clean my room. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that a good way to think about it?
Yeah. So, yeah, what I hear you asking is if you set it up as kind of like rules of engagement, like this is what it's expected in our home, and it's explained well, then holding them accountable doesn't require the same amount of energy or
Right.
threat. I would 100% agree. If you can sit down when tensions are zero, there's no tensions, everyone's just chill, and you want to go over what's
Like at
expected.
a family meeting.
Yeah, family meeting. Even the title doesn't sound very fun.
I told you about the first one I did, right?
Yeah.
And Carly's first thing. Raise her hand.
Do I have to be here?
Can I leave now?
Yeah.
Sure can, Carly.
No one
Thanks.
really wants to participate other than the person who calls the meeting. Awesome, Dad. Family meeting. I'll be right there.
Yeah, can't wait.
Not feeling good. I'm on the toilet. Okay, so yeah, I would highlight that as being clear with your expectations and follow through in the home. Be really clear so that they're not confused. When you bring it up, it's not surprising. The more you talk about it, the more likely they absorb it. But how you bring it up is really important. Again, if you were to talk to your friend and you barked at your friend over something within your relationship, your friend's like, screw you. I don't really want to be friends with you. I'm tired of feeling shit on and like judged and like bossed
Right.
around. But we justify that with our kids. And I would say under like what justifiable reason?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a right to approach them? But you significantly, dramatically, emphatically care about how they grow up, what they think, and how they communicate. You're pouring something unnecessarily negative into their pot, right? So if it's like a plant that you're constantly like, I want this tree to grow beautifully in the backyard, and you're not conscious of what you're doing to care for it. That's what it's similar to. Like, well, you want to grow this child to be someone that you love and you're proud of and that they're happy and well functioning. How you talk to them matters. And so, how do you get them to do the dishes when they forgot? A friendly approach would say, hey, it looks like you're doing something right now. How much longer do you have for that? And when you're done, I need you to do the dishes, right? Or depending on what they're doing, you could say, would you take a quick break, please, and just do these because I need this to get finished up in the kitchen so I can get to some work done or something, right? You don't have to wait. But if you can wait, it's reasonable. It shows respect, right? Like parents tend to think like my stuff is more important than my kids' stuff.
Right.
And arguably in some cases, I'd say, yeah, sure, this bill is more important than this game they're playing. Or me working is more important than them playing with their friends. But it's just an unnecessary statement to be hammering. Like my stuff's more important than your stuff, and that's just the way it is, kid. Versus everyone's got stuff they care about. This is just what we agreed to in our home. This is your role. I'm just asking you to do it. That's all. Well, I don't want to do it. Well, okay, that's not really an option. So here's what we're going to talk about. Here are your options. You can do this and get back to what you're doing. You can not do it, lose the privilege of what you're doing, or reconsider what you're responsible for in the home and maybe double the workload or something, right? Friendly, or being the friend, though, is holding them accountable, because that's what being a good person that you care about is. It's slightly different role than a friend than your kid, but doing it in a way that sounds friendly. You don't sacrifice any of the teaching. You're not undercutting the principles at all. You're just making it more digestible and more likely to be absorbed in how they do that with others.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have so many clients, coaching clients and counseling clients that are conflict avoidant. And they are horrible leaders, or it hampers their leadership in their workplace and in their homes because they'll do almost anything to avoid conflict and tension. Well, often they didn't see that in their home. They weren't modeled of like how to address conflict in a kind, respectful, but productive way. And in this form of parenting, it's modeling what it looks like to enter into a space of potential conflict with an agenda in mind and navigating it and striving for the desired outcome. So I want my kid to do this. They're over now, right now, playing with a friend, playing on their phone, playing this video game. I have to find a way to jolt them out of I feel the pressure to jolt them out of this world of pleasure
Right.
into this responsibility I need them to do. And most parents aren't pre-thinking what's the best approach, what's the emotional state they're in. They're just thinking, I need this stuff done. They should be doing it. I don't need to like be nice. I don't have to go make a deal with them. This is just the way the world is.
To me, that's like when you're at that crossroad. To me, that's like doomed for failure every time when you're like, I don't need to be nice. It just has to be done, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you just said kindness a minute ago, I just thought, for me with my 7-year-old, how massive that is. Once I'm not kind to her, and I'll realize I'll get shitty and I'll say something, oh, just do it because I said, or, you said you were going to do it. And she's 7 and it's like, she's still grasping certain concepts and things. But once I'm not nice, it spirals and it's like, now we got to go down the whole de-escalation path and all that stuff. And it's out of control. So I think that's something that I'm working on, is to really have that kindness, at all times, whether it's with my spouse or my kids, any of those, when those things pop up, because I just feel like that's a one-way ticket to just Disasterville.
Yeah, it's such a distraction at the least, and at the worst, it blows things up and instills really bad habits. That's the part I think that I would want to say. That's the essence of friend that we're describing. The friend parent is a kind parent. That doesn't mean you're forfeiting the expectations or the follow through or the work ethic. Those are all admirable things that you would want your friend or your kid to develop. So it's crazy to say that being friendly means you're enabling.
Right.
I think honestly, there's so many enabling friends in the world that's kind of redefined what being friendly is, is you don't really speak the truth. Your friend's like, well, I don't know, I really want to do this. Like, I totally agree. And then like you find out they don't agree.
Yeah.
They disapprove of this, your partner, or this job choice, or like how you take care of yourself, and they judge you, but they don't say it in your face. They're just like, oh, good for you. That sounds awesome. You're right. They do suck. Your boss is such a dick. You're right. Versus, well, I don't know, like you didn't do the thing you're supposed to do. Like, isn't that what a boss is supposed to do? Is like hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Friends don't say that. And so the bad behavior has like redefined friendly. And then to say friend or parent is confusing because it looks like you're this enabling pushover parent. Like, no, if you care about your kid, you care about their work ethic, their follow through, their attitude. You wouldn't want to ignore any of those things, right? So it's to me, it's just more intelligent than the concept of like, don't be their friend, be their parent. That's just not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
What's interesting is help develop all parts of them. Their communication skills, their people skills, their emotional intelligence, their follow through, their work ethic, their perseverance, all those things, their resiliency. And having a better relationship with you gives you a closer seat to all of it, right? Evidenced by when your kid hits the teenage years and you don't have the power leverage that you used to. All you have is trust and track record. And the kid's not going to want to talk to you and he's not going to want to listen to you if you haven't invested in that relationship. My dad always talked about it's not the control that you want influence. You have control when the kids are smaller. You can pick them up, you can put them in a seat, you can strap them down,
right,
take something away and not blow up. Well, the kid might blow up, but it's contained. But, oh, they're 12, oh, they're 14, oh, they're 17. Well, nothing stopping the kid from walking right out the front door and walking, getting in an Uber, getting in the car, taking a bike, and being like, I don't want to talk to you forever, maybe. Yeah. Nothing you can do. Oh, call the police. We have a runaway. Like, okay. For how long? 6 hours. Well, call us back in 24 hours. And then, like no one's going to do anything. Yeah. You've lost your power. What do you have? Your influence. Where's your influence? Was it not, were they nice? Were they reasonable? Were they understanding? No, they never listen to me. They lecture me. They threaten me. Why would I want to talk to them? Right. That's what we're talking about. Developing a friendship / the new phrase, friend parent or parent friend. is you have boundaries and expectations, but you're first and foremost creating a bond, an attachment, right? I want to respect you as a person. I want to understand your human experience. You might have done something that requires some action, but we'll get to that. First, like, let's connect. And obviously a lot of parents don't know how to do that. If that wasn't modeled for them, it's not a natural relationship. This is the only dynamic perhaps they have in their human existence that's like this. Everything else is a little cleaner. Oh, with your friend? Oh, you just high five, give them a hug, agree with them. Now, that's the recipe for being like maybe that inauthentic friend. I'm not really prescribing, but it's not a confusing role. Right. Go to work, do your job. Oh, your boss is this. Oh, like those roles are cleaner and more clear, not always healthy or functional. But this is a really awkward dynamic where from, day one, it's like this baby needs everything from you to stay alive. And for years, not just a few days, like some of the animal kingdom, it's like, oh, popped out and little Johnny's running around. And in a few days, he's on his own. And as the human development process goes, it's years and years and years of needing mom and dad for sustenance and just life support. Mm-hmm. And then awkwardly, without clear milestones, they don't need you. They don't really need you, right? Like if we didn't have the cultural norms we have, I mean, at what age? Like 12 or 13, the kid's like, well, I can hunt.
Yeah.
I know how to like build a little hut.
Yeah.
I don't need you.
Yeah.
But our kids are, more enabled than maybe any time in history. And they stick around a lot longer, but they don't really think they need us at certain ages. So without a bond, you don't have influence. You just have all the lessons that you were unconsciously or consciously planting that they've now absorbed. And hopefully they were good, versus keeping an ongoing lifeline of relationship to be able to navigate and talk about that 18-year-old mark, or they're leaving for college, or they got their first job, or they get a gigantic breakup, or they're thinking about marriage, or they got huge financial problems, like whatever the incident is. The more access to support and wisdom they have, the better they're going to be. And keeping that lifeline open is the relationship, is the friendly part of what we're talking about. Is like, well, don't you want to be involved in their life at all stages? Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, just be reasonable. Reasonable allows you to be kind and firm.
Yeah.
Firm doesn't mean raw energy. It's, hey, but I said 10 o'clock. Like, I feel like you're not respecting what we talked about. If you needed to be later, we talk about it another time, not in the moment. I feel like it's manipulative, right? Like that's how I would talk to my daughter.
Yeah.
If Justice were to mess something up and said like, you're supposed to be home by 10, she's not driving yet, so I'm the one picking her up. So it'll be on me right now. But if it was like, you have to be home by 10, she comes home, let's say 10:45, 11. I would say, hey, one, I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you're safe. Did you have a good time? Yeah. Well, no. Okay. Hey, real quick. We said 10. It's 10:55. That feels disrespectful. And I'm just kind of checking in like, what's the deal? That's it, right? That's as aggressive as I would be, because I have a firm line I can take. I don't need my energy and my words to threaten her. The more ownership I can encourage her to make, the better she's going to be, and the better we're going to be able to go through that together. So I'm inviting her into taking ownership without feeling like a threat, right? But if I said, I meet her at the door, it's 10:55, I'm like, do you know what time it is? Obviously she does. She's got a phone.
Yeah.
And we agreed on 10. This is a violation. You're not going out tomorrow night, or, blah, 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 blah. Why? Well, I'm mad, and she needs to learn that these rules matter, The only nugget in there that's relevant is learning and accountability. And why not achieve that nugget in a friendly, building kind of way, like we're in this together, versus an unnecessarily divisive control way. And parents, that they just, either they don't know, or they're going off of a model that was like that, or they're just kind of trapped in like, I have to make my kid be this way, and I'm just going to use force or anger or threat. It's just a lesser intelligent approach that we can all slip into. And the more intelligent is, well, hold on to this thing over here, 10 o'clock. but talk about it in a reasonable, respectful way to get their participation, because it's going to go better.
Yeah. So that's for an older child, right? That's like
Yeah.
14, 15, 16. What about how do you build those bonds earlier on? So now you're getting into the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ranges, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, I'll just give you a hypothetical that's never happened before.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, exactly. So, something with like a 7-year-old who's like, hey, you said you're gonna, do the dishes, or we're all doing, this, we're all cleaning up right now, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I don't want to, right? And
Yeah.
so, back to like the conflict avoidance, I think my wife is more on the likes to avoid conflict,
Okay.
And so I would be more the, hey, we're a team. We all agreed to do this. We all decided we want a clean house. Maybe we decided that at the family meeting. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, this is the time to do that. And she's like, I don't want to do it. I would want to dig in my heels and say, we had to. So now we're at a crossroad where it could go either way, right? Where she just say, I don't want to do it, and stomp off in her room.
Yeah.
And then my wife might pop in and just try to go right to the friend and like redirect and be like, hey, like everything's fine, and like let's not have a big blow up type deal, right? So how do you sort of navigate the blow ups and all that stuff, and then but also sort of maintain that
Principle.
the principles, or this is what we all decided, we agreed upon, and we need to still start building this sort of habit of you got to do what you say, and principles and things like that, right?
It's a great question. I think being a good parent is really, that parent is clear on what accountability looks like and what follow through looks like. Not to like the 10th degree, but to say, okay, well, Carly's supposed to do dishes. That's clear. She knows that. Family knows that. And being a good parent means you hold her accountable to that. And you anchor to that point as a good parent. Okay. Like, this is a principle that is fair and clear, reasonable. And if we're going to be good parents, we've got to get her to do it. To me, that's a starting point. And then not like however you need to do it, but using whatever kind of angle you can to get to that point is where the creative parent really comes alive, right? Is to say, well, can you do this in a friendly way?
Right.
Can you do this in a respectful way that gets her to do it? Because if she's doing it, that's the piece that you really want. It's not how you got her to do it that's the lesson. The actual follow through is the lesson, that she did the dishes. That's it. Well, she needs to have a good attitude. Oh, come on. That's too picky.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, that's too much, right? Now, if she's talking shit the whole time while she's doing it, that's different. Now, it's like verbally attacking mom and dad while she's doing dishes, that's a separate issue. But if it's just like, and she's doing the dishes, leave it alone.
Yeah.
She's doing it. Plug your ears. You got her to do it. That was the number one goal. I mean, a lot of times parents egg on or provoke a fight because they idealistically want the kid to also just have a good attitude. Like, shut up. Like, pick your worst chore in your life. You have a good attitude, and how do you respond when someone tells you you should?
Go pay your taxes.
You should
right
be
now.
grateful to pay your taxes. This country does this for you, and like, shut up. Like, no, it's annoying. I have to do it. You'd say, I get it. There are chores that I don't want to do too. Don't lecture. Don't go on too long, but just say, hey, I know. But this is your role. You're capable of doing it. I see your hands working. I see your feet moving. Like, good thing. Your body's moving fine. Your eyes seem to be working. You can tell like what's a knife and what's a cup. Whew. You're okay. I need you to do this. So you tell me, like, do you need a minute? Or do you need 5 minutes? Or do you need me to like take you down and beat your, like, hit your ribs? Again, this is a little bit of navigating and trying to predict the emotional resistance, right? You say a weird thing. You're like, what? You can hit me in the ribs, Dad? She's used to the threats probably. And she's used to her explosive response when she feels negative energy encroaching upon her. What she's not used to is a really neutral accountability. And she's not used to you not giving up. So don't give up on the nice neutral. It usually works. Now there are going to be kids in situations that it's been in motion for a while that this won't work day one. But to say in your head, there's no way I'm letting her off the hook. But there's also no way I'm going to be a jerk and blow
Right.
up.
Right.
Right. That's the commitment of be a good parent, is get them to do the thing that you know as a human you need to be able to follow through. You got to be able to have adversity and follow through on your things in life. And to do it with a good attitude, it's better for the world. Like the employee who does it begrudgingly, no one wants to work with that employee, and it never aligns with like desired corporate culture.
Right.
It's the person who has a good attitude. All right, we'll help them develop a good attitude while they do tough things. That's another key like parenting element that actually is like taught and absorbed, but it never gets a lot of attention. It's like, the parent is becoming like instant caveman, and it's like, doesn't matter, do the dishes. Like, it does matter. Like, their attitude is going to be significant, and your attitude is significant. So get them to do the dishes and do it without being a caveman, threatening to beat them over the head with a club or take all their stuff for a year. So, in that situation, it's the context matters. Like, well, is she sick? Is she tired? Was it a long day? Is there any kind of like negotiation that would be helpful that doesn't water down the lesson over here? If you want to just get her off of her point that she might be stuck on, it's like, again, can I help you? How about I help you for just like the first 30 seconds? How about we just get this rolling? I'll open the dishwasher and you start bringing some stuff to me, and then I'll let you like take over from there. Just getting over that hump with most of our unwanted tasks in life is enough to get all the way to the finish line. And so just finding creative ways to get her to do the dishes and not be idealistic about it.
Right.
I shouldn't have to tell you, You're like, well, you are. Here's where you are.
Yeah.
Like, this is parenting. Obviously, there needs to be more reminders and more growth here because they still have to be reminded. Okay,
Right.
so it might be 3 years. Don't give up. Like, good follow through is always a good, worthwhile cause to continue to push in the family. Just don't let your emotional irritation or your own stuff get in the way and then feel justified that it's like the kid brought that on, right? Most of our parenting mistakes are egged on by our own stuff, our day, our aspirations, our idea of what should be, and they're not living up to it. And now we're justified by just like blowing up or spilling stuff out, right? That doesn't mean we don't have a right to hold them accountable, but it doesn't make sense that we would model something we wouldn't want them to do.
Yeah.
Like, how horrified would be if they did exactly what we're talking about to a friend at school. It's like time to clean up in class, and they act like their parent does to them when it's time to clean up. And they're like, where'd you learn this? Yeah. I see it every single night in my kitchen.
Yeah, right from my parents.
Versus like, what would you be so proud of them doing in a class setting? Be like, hey, would you mind helping me? We'd go a lot faster if we all did this together.
Yeah.
Versus, I shouldn't have to do this. I did this for our group today. Like, I shouldn't have to do this. I worked. Parents like, I did this. Like, this is your role. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. But is that the message? And like, how's that message really going to be absorbed? Most likely begrudgingly, or kind of like a FU delivery.
Yeah.
Versus, let's just do it together. Or you do this part, I'll do this. It'll go faster.
Yeah.
Right. Learning how to make it not make a power struggle is, I guess, the category that this falls in. It's like, how do you encourage and require follow through without making it and falling into a power struggle? And that's why the concept, like, be kind and creative and patient to avoid a power struggle. You're likely to achieve more than one goal. The follow through happened, and you modeled something that you would love to see them do in their life, and you didn't damage the attachment.
Yeah. So what do you think a reasonable, if there is just a total back down on their part and they're like, I'm just absolutely not doing it, and they're kicking and screaming and stuff like that. Is that just...
I would leave the dishes.
Just leave it. And...
I would make sure. So I would say they're going to do the dishes.
Right.
Whether it's like tonight or tomorrow or sometime. I would not rescue them from that. But I also wouldn't just begrudgingly and defiantly fight if there's no clear light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Like I might say, you know what, it is, let's say it's 8 o'clock. They're actually not capable right now of emotionally regulating. Okay.
Right.
She's 7.
It's
Although,
tired.
although this is her job, and although I want her to do her job, it's actually not very probable that she's going to emotionally de-escalate herself right now and motivate to doing the dishes. Okay. That's just fact. That's not principle. The principle argument is like, what habits are you setting right now and telling her that it's okay if she can just throw a tired fit and get out of chores? No, she's going to do this chore sometime in the next 24 hours. And it's inconvenient for the family, but this is a worthwhile lesson for her to learn.
Yeah.
Right. But I want her to actually have like a realistic chance of doing it. And right now she's done.
Yeah. Not realistic.
Right. If it's tired, then you'd say delay the follow through. If it's not tired, it's just a tantrum, then I'd say, all right, well, let's go for a quick walk. I would go back to that, the de-escalation.
Right. Yeah.
Like, let's do something else.
Which has been massive, by the way.
Lower the number, and then let's re-engage this.
Yeah.
But just the parent in that case, you're unwisely being more caveman and just making her do it. And out of principle, I would say, you're right. The follow through is important, but how you do the follow through and at what cost is in some ways even more important for your well-being and for the attachment benefits of the relationship and for her learning, one, how to be a parent someday, or two, how to just address conflict. You wouldn't want her to absorb and then model those behaviors anywhere else in her life. Right? So that's like a good check-in question of like, would you want your kid to treat anyone like this? If you were watching and they're like, this is what you raised. It's a good like accountability reference point of like, well, no, I'd want them to be like more reasonable. And I would like for this pattern to have like been developed over a time where this is less likely to be a blow up.
Yeah.
Which is a slightly different subject. But in that case, if she's too tired, and most kids that are emotionally unregulated in the evening are too tired to do the reasonable thing. That doesn't mean you never follow through with something, but it needs to be factored in, because if it's not realistic and they're going to get additional consequences on top of it, it's kind of unfair. Like, I'm not saying it's unfair to give kids consequences, but if they're already tired and already in a hole and you're not recognizing that and you're kind of baiting them, it's kind of like the person who gets like, I know, I feel like when people get pulled over, they get charges, they get like 20 charges. Like, well, but that was one thing that led to like all these other things. You kind of like, at that point, you yelled at the guy and then he yelled back and then you said like, and I got charged for this. The parent doesn't want to bait the kid into committing like more faults.
Right.
So say, hey, they're not in control right now. I wish they were, but let's remove them from this self-defeating rut that they're in and do a quick reset, or let's just revisit this tomorrow. Right? That's letting the context be the input. Like, well, hold on. We just got home from this long trip. Everyone's tired and irritated. Is it likely they're going to do this and benefit from it?
Yeah.
Well, no, but they need to know. It's like this ignorant commitment to principle that you're worshiping over like just practical life. You're like, hey, yeah, but it's not going to go that way. They're not going to like go to bed tonight and be like, I'm so proud I did those dishes in the university of my day, the emotional turmoil, like I persevered.
Yeah.
They're like incoherent anger.
So I think it's safe to say erring on the side of friend and kindness is probably way more important than erring on the side of the drill sergeant.
And I know that people, I can already like sense the hairs prickling up on someone's back with the idea of being the friend.
Right.
Like, no, but it's not being even the friend. It's like being an intelligent human.
Yeah.
Like, well, hold on. This is a 7-year-old who's exhausted. And they should have done the dishes earlier. They didn't, because they're 7 and they don't plan their day out like some idiot adult.
Yeah.
Right? They're being a kid. And they're not emotionally capable right now of regulating themselves and delivering this. So what's reasonable? That's the question the parent has to ask themselves. What's reasonable is that she does the dishes at some point the next day. even if that's an inconvenience for the rest of the family. And what's also reasonable is that she gets a chance to reset to be her healthiest self. And right now she's, compromised. A lot of times people are compromised. That doesn't mean they're let off the hook. The law doesn't care if you've had a long day before you hit that person in the face.
Right.
Like, well, I was pretty tired.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep well last night. I can't control myself. I was like, sorry,
I didn't have any goldfish after school today, officer.
Yeah.
I'm so hungry.
Someone ate them at lunch, and I was really hungry.
Ate all my goldfish.
I couldn't resist ramming the person who wouldn't go when the light turned green.
Yeah.
But parents get to be reasonable, and we should be reasonable, right? Especially when you're teaching them how to navigate an imperfect life. You should be reasonable. Well, it's not always gonna be that way. You're gonna have days where you're tired, and you still gotta get the dishes done. You're 7. You don't have to hold their feet to the fire in every situation. You want to say, what's reasonable? Well, that she does it, but she does it after she's had a chance to reset. Can she reset tonight? Yes. No. Okay, well then let's revisit first thing in the morning. All right. I want you to know that I can see that you're struggling. I can tell that you're tired. But I also want you to know that the dishwasher still needs to be taken care of, and that we've just decided that you've been granted a 12-hour delay. They don't happen often, but this is a 12-hour delay you've been granted by the courts of parents. And so by tomorrow morning, by 8 o'clock, that needs to be done. If not, then the court's going to consider some other consequences, which I really hope doesn't happen. Dumb, funny. And you give her a chance to reset, and the next morning you're all in, not with a jerk attitude, but just like, hey, awesome. Your not so favorite thing is time to get done. Let's roll. Let's do some dishes. You want some music? A little background dance music? Just make it easier for her to get into her thing.
Yeah.
That's what a friendly parent does. It's like they want success. They want to win, right? What's winning as a parent? That the kid does the thing and it was enjoyable, or bonding, or both, right? Everyone, that's a win. What's a loss/win? I made them do their thing, but now they're mad at me.
Right.
And then the parent's like, well, I don't care if they're mad at me. That's just my role, and that's their job, and da-da-da. And you're like, okay, that's just not that intelligent.
Yeah.
If you want to just say the only important thing is that they get their dishes done, you're just not going to be that great of a parent.
So I would think another big area this falls into is sports parents or coaches, right? So that coach. Oof. And maybe that's an entire another podcast topic, right? But, I just I've sort of been the default golf coach for my boys, right? And, they're super into it. And so I've tried to learn as much as I can, and finding that to navigate between, that, okay, am I a parent now? Am I a friend? Am I a coach? All those things. I know one guy I ran into, he said, he would literally have a hat, and one said dad, and one said coach, right? And he would put, those on for his kid to sort of have those conversations. But it seems like, again, it's just common sense, but making sure that kindness is involved, because I know that's in our society, and it's win, sports, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
You probably really start blurring those lines too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to think of coaching. I can't say I'm accessing any data on how effective, let's say, Bobby Knight was versus Phil Jackson.
Right.
All I can go off was my worldview, my impression, and maybe what looks like the player's experience. But both were successful, and both seemed to take an entirely different approach to shaping players' development and respect for humanity.
Yeah.
Right? Bobby Knight.
I mean, didn't he poop on the floor? I don't know if that's an urban legend. That's an urban legend, or that really happened.
Oh, never heard that.
You haven't heard that one?
No, but I
literally that he did that on center court, put chairs around it, brought the players back out after the game, and made them stare, and said, "That's what you guys played like."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Maybe somebody from IU back us up on that, but maybe that's an urban legend. Maybe
wow.
Not. But I think he had that reputation of probably not being friendly, not being kind.
And I would
the
ingredients of the essence of what he's getting at is he thought they could play better.
Right.
Right. but the human decency and the level of respect in achieving the outcome matters, evidenced by every human experience you've ever had. Like someone that treats you well versus poor, you're like, oh, I can tell the difference. I like that one. To have accountability and to encourage play better doesn't require taking a dump and making someone look at it. It requires just the accountability of like, hey, you guys, everyone's better than this. And I don't want anyone to take it lightly. This was a debacle. And I don't want people to feel shameful because that's weird and unnecessary. But no one should feel good about how they played. Like because we know we can play better. And I need everyone to own that. Come to practice tomorrow. We're going to start with, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to own to be a better player so that everyone can be more of their potential, right? Right or wrong, good or bad, who knows? It depends how that's delivered. But the concept of needing to be the enforcer, that's just a belief system that someone just like globs onto. There's no like data that would support that. Like data supports attachment, motivation, perseverance, and learning through adversity. You're more likely to do that the more trusting you are of the other person, right? And so I'd say, well, isn't just trust the key ingredient to helping someone believe your advice for their life, coach or parent? Yeah, okay, then what do you do for trust? Well, it's usually consistency, follow through, respect, understanding. That doesn't mean you have to be weak. You could be super strong and sound really nice.
Yeah.
That's confusing for most people. Most people are like all or nothing. Nice people are pushovers. They enable. They never say the truth. Stern people tell it like it is. They're realists and they get the most out of their people. You're like, okay, well, do you have to be a dick when you do it? No.
Yeah.
Why would you be a pushover and be nice? Like, why wouldn't you say, what are higher qualities? Respect, trust, follow through, perseverance, skill development, forgiveness. Oh, those are all great. Yeah, be all those. You're not going to be great at all of them, but being a good parent means being gracious and requiring follow through. Sometimes the better thing to do is to teach that being gracious is healthy and necessary. They're not going to be perfect, nor are we. But if it's always grace and no follow through, that's not a great lesson either, because then they don't learn that there actually are consequences to that. It affects trust. You're not going to like the outcomes if you never do your thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard for parents that want to lock in the autopilot and do like the all or nothing and just leave it on autopilot and assume it's going to work out. Well, it's the structure and that's the way it is. And you just got to get used to it. And that's me being a parent. You need me in your life to teach you these things. You could get by with that and no court's going to ever judge that you are an unfit parent. But it's just a settling way too low for potential, because that kid's not going to want to have those breakthrough conversations. And that kid only learns that style. That learns the autopilot parenting style.
Right.
Versus the interactive, able to adjust to like different circumstances and climate in the world or family circumstances. And so it's just again, lesser intelligent. It's kind of the Neanderthal, like, well, this is how you stay alive, kid. If not, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that's not the society we live in anymore. Like, it's not a saber tooth lurching for us or we die. It's navigating a bunch of like non-life threatening situations and do it in a wise way. So having a relationship where that's fostered on the golf course, on the basketball court, in the bedroom, it's the same idea. Like, I'm going to treat you respectfully and I'm going to help you achieve your goals. If you don't have goals, I don't want to put goals on you in this area,
Right.
in the sports area, right? Like my dad said early on, I'm not going to put any goals for you on you because it's not fair. It doesn't work. These are extracurricular activities in life. It has nothing to do with like who you are as a person. Now, how I do the things, sure. How I practice and how I treat others on the court or whatever matters. But he said, if you want to do something and you want support in it, let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to push you in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a really good default place for a parent that's kind of parent coach is to really get the kids' desired goals on paper.
Yeah.
And then just hold them accountable to that, but not as the dictator,
Right.
as, hey, do you still want support?
Yeah.
you still want me to be like, help you be better?
Almost more as like a teammate or a friend or
Regularly
yeah,
asking
right.
for their permission to follow through. Otherwise, it can get out of hand really quickly because the power differential is so significant with parent-child that it can be like, well, you asked me to do this. And now that's like, a ticket for saying or doing anything.
Right.
Like,
I cornered you to say that this is what I want to do that one time, and now
you
now
said
it's
you
like,
wanted to be good.
yeah,
And here I am trying to help you be good. And,
Right.
or like, this sounds like you're making about you and not the kid. Let the kid decide in these areas that aren't life or death.
right,
Like, well, they changed their mind. Okay.
yeah,
You don't change your mind ever. It's not okay to change your mind over these non-life commitment activities. You never quit a job, never moved, like it's ridiculous.
yeah,
So there's a lot of discernment in being a good parent, being a good coach, being a good friend. Is now the time to push in on this? Is now the time to give them a hug, right? Give them a hug and then make them do the dishes. Like, it just depends. But if you take a generic stance, you get locked in unnecessarily and you limit your chance to like make the best decision in the moment. And so really what I'm hoping to like develop in parents and share with them is like an ongoing, like, wisest engagement with a big picture, but they're able to also in the moment be like, yeah, but it's 10 o'clock. They're exhausted. This is not going to go well. It never goes well when they're this tired. Let's revisit this tomorrow morning.
yeah,
Or I'm tired. I'm probably going to blow up. I'm probably going to like make this something it doesn't need to be. Let's postpone this. Let's revisit it tomorrow. Like, that's wise. To just be locked in often creates like an unnecessary conflict, right? As this point of contention and control at the worst time.
yeah,
So like wisdom would be like, well, this is not the time. This, out of principle, this is right. But context matters, and timing and setting matter a ton. You're modeling how you want to navigate life. Would you want them to parent this way? Well, no. I'd want them to make sure this is addressed, but without harm to the relationship.
yeah. Well, and I like that idea too of just being able to let your kids ask why, and you have a why at all times in those, right? And I think whenever you're just like, because I said so,
So dumb.
just never,
It's so ignorant.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's probably offensive to someone who says it a lot. It's not a good, it doesn't make any sense. That's why it's hard. Don't do something that you can't make sense of. If you want your kids to be critical thinkers and to be like wise and learn in the world, if you don't know why you're doing it, just say, I don't know.
yeah,
Only because I prefer it to not be done past 9. I don't know. It's noisy. It bothers me.
yeah,
Is it right? Can I prove that it's right or wrong? No, but would you just be respectful of my wishes? All right. You're inviting them into being respectful versus forcing them to follow a particular way. There's a big difference. Would you just do me a favor and not play that after 9? I'm old. It makes me feel old to say it, but like, that's just really jacks with my sleep, or whatever the situation is. You're invoking like team approach. You're like using your clout in the relationship to get them to do a behavior that is likely good for them, but it's definitely good for us in that situation. But don't say because I said so. It's so dumb. It doesn't really mean anything. You have a reason, unless it's like immoral, share the reason.
yeah,
Like, well, it stresses me out because I don't have a lot of time for this, and then it like jacks up the whole experience. So that's why I'd rather not do that. That's why you can't go to so-and-so's house. Not because I said so. Like, it's just dumb.
yeah. I like it.
We can be better.
We can be better. Well, I like it, Josh. The new parent idea.
Yeah.
We can be both.
Friend.
The friend. Yeah. The friend.
I'm a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and I just want to nail down like the critical takeaways. It's essential that you know your parenting principle, right? Follow through, accountability. Every human needs that to have a reasonably successful, enjoyable life, right? And we also need attachment and friendship and relationship. And a parent has a wonderful opportunity to have a really healthy, warm relationship with their children without sacrificing accountability and rules and structure. It takes creativity. It takes a lot of learning. So listen in weekly because we're going to unpack it regularly. But it's better for your kids than to play the all or nothing. You give in, you enable all the activities because you want them to like you. Or you say no because you're trying to like teach them the real world, and then you kind of hamper the relationship. There's a lot of room in between that we want to continue to talk about and make it clear for parents.
Yeah. And how great to just spend the rest of your life with your kids, like being friendly and having that as like the foundation.
Lifelong, right?
That is the foundation of your relationship.
Ongoing experience with them and their kids. And that's what you want. Let's like not mess it up.
Well, and I think you and your parents have done an amazing job of modeling that. So thanks for that, Josh.
Yeah, I did my part.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Cool. Well, thanks again, man, for another amazing episode, and for
Absolutely.
bringing all the goods. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.